Oregon Trail. Some may remember this as a game that you played when you were younger, but to the people that went on the long drive, it was far from a game. In 1841, the small band of 70 pioneers left Missouri to immigrate to Oregon. In 1842, a slightly larger group of 100 pioneers made the 2,000-mile journey to Oregon. The next year, however, the number jumped tremendously to 1,000 men, women, and children that climbed aboard their wagons and steered their animals west out of the small town of Elm, Missouri. The train compressed more than 100 wagons with a herd of 5,000 oxen and cattle trailing behind. If the wagon train left too early, there would be no grass for the animals to eat along the way, which could be a fatal mistake. If they left too late, they could get caught by the winter snowfall. This trail was the only feasible land route for settlers to get to the West Coast. From 1843 until 1869, when the first transcontinental railroad was completed, there were over 500,000 people who made the trip in covered wagons pulled by mules and oxen. Most of the pioneers traveled in farm wagons 4 feet by 10 feet, with 1,000 pounds of food in them. The wagons had cotton covered, treated with lysine oil to keep the rain out. Many were equipped with toolboxes, water containers, and spare axles, as breaking an axle without a spare meant abandoning the wagon. The trip usually took 4 to 6 months by wagon, traveling 15 miles a day, whereas the only other route to the west was by the sea, which took a little over a full year. The first section of the wagon train ran through the relatively flat country of the Great Plains. Obstacles were few, though the river crossings could be very dangerous for the wagons. Many pioneers believed Indians were their greatest threat. They quickly learned that they were more likely to be injured or killed by a wide amount of other problems. Some obstacles included accidental discharge of firearms, falling off of the mules or horses, drowning in the river crossings, and disease. After entering the mountains, the trail also became much more difficult, with steep cliffs and rocky terrain. The pioneers risked injury from overturned and runaway wagons. One of the most common misconceptions about the dangers of the Native Americans proved to be unlikely. The Native Americans were actually friendly more often than not. Encounters most often involved simple trades, and there were very few pioneers that actually died at the hands of the Indians. Many movies showed the pioneers circling their wagons each night to provide a protection for themselves in the threat of Indians. In reality, the wagons were circled to provide a corral for the livestock and to keep a better eye on the children. Today, in many places, the wagon ruts can still be seen. The Oregon National Historical Trail was designated by Congress in 1978 and is administered by the National Park Service in partnership with the Bureau of Land Management, the Forest Service, and state and local governments, and many private individuals whose property the trails cross. Today, one can drive a similar route from Independence, Missouri to Oregon City, Oregon, and visit 125 historical sites and see over